for counter to be done, but he ain't wrapping up. So I'm just gonna see who shows up. So Sunday Night Live. Finally have myself a Sunday night where I can come out here, chat with all you fine folks, talk about lawn care for a little while. Neighbors coming out, gonna probably look at me funny. But yeah, I am so this weekend we got all of the mulch down on the landscaping. That months-long journey to figure out how I did a concrete walkway, killed off a bunch of areas of my yard, cut in live edges, did all of that good stuff, and yeah, it feels good to be done with that. But let's see, trying to get this up so I can actually see. Family Barton, man, what's up? Happy Sunday. Yeah, probably sometime here. I got a couple of videos already recorded, and that I'm in the process of editing. So I am now launching myself into renovation season. So I've been delaying and putting off a lot of lawn care projects, and just by and large letting a lot of that stuff fall to the wayside, simply because I was dedicating the vast majority of my efforts to fixing up all of the landscaping and making that look pretty, which it does, you guys. It is completely transformed our house. It looks so good. Not quite a family barn, not quite a one-man army. I did have quite a bit of help from my family. So planting day, my family came down and helped plant. Mulch day, my family came down and helped me. Walkway, my family came down and helped me. So a lot of the site prep, digging out the walkway, digging out all the pavers, and doing a lot of that type of work, I did all by myself. But I did have quite a bit of help from my parents and my wife's parents as well. So not quite a one-man army, but yeah, the projects to come will be, because just tonight, actually, before starting up the live stream here, I have now glyphosated the remaining section in my front yard. So I'm going to do a little video around that as that project starts to kind of kick off, because I launched down a journey and a plan of trying to see if, so my front yard is about 7,000 square feet, and I don't have the resources, irrigation, anything to be able to renovate that all at the same time. I just wouldn't be able to renovate 7,000 square feet at once. So I did the only thing I could think of, is I picked about 1,200 square feet, and I did that. And then last year I did another like 1,300 square feet, and then another 1,600 square feet. So I'm about 4,000 square feet total of renovated Kentucky bluegrass in the front yard, which now is probably back down to like 3,000 square feet, because we did remove quite a bit of that for the landscaping. But then we're going to do the last, it's about 2,000 square feet, 3,000 square feet left along the road, which I'm super excited to start up and get taken care of. Also in the middle of a minor renovation on the putting green. So through this summer, a lot of the lessons that I've learned with the putting green project is that the existing bent grass that was in my yard that had already been here wasn't as good as the pen cross. So basically what had happened is, when it got hot and the disease pressure started kicking in and the drought started kicking in, pen cross was still green, happy, growing, and the rest of the grass on the putting green really kind of checked out and either died off or just went dormant. So really what I'm trying to do and what I want to do is, is completely, so what I've done is I've verticut, checkerboard verticut the putting green, and then seeded, and then kind of went back through and raked some of the dirt back in. So that's what we got going on. Glyphosate the front yard, renovating the putting green, and so just renovations now through the end of the year, and maybe some various property projects around the way. But I think that realistically the renovations are going to take up a lot of time here through the remainder of the year. Hopefully this week we're going to be getting over to my brother-in-law's and mother-in-law's houses to get the July Milorganite applications down. So we'll get the next installation of the Cheap and Easy Lawn Care program coming up, and yeah, we'll see what happens. Still only not a whole lot of people in here. What I was kind of worried about and what I was going to wait for is for Connor's live stream to wrap up. Probably should have done that, but it's 9 o'clock here already, and I just wanted to talk a little bit. So, let's see. I don't think, I keep posting pictures everywhere of the landscaping and what I got going on. Just because for me it's probably a banner achievement, not because of the landscaping, that part's not all that difficult, but just the scope of it. So I think it was something like 12 or 1300 square feet of total beds. When I ordered mulch, that was about the calculation I used. And then bringing the walkway. So actually today, my wife and I, we have now bought a little like kind of high top table and a couple chairs to go with that, so we can have a little seating area out front on that little patio off our front door. And yeah, it's a super exciting kind of thing for me, because we moved into this house in 2018 and the front of the house looked so bad. Like it was hopelessly overgrown. It looked terrible. Really just awful. And now to have that all be done, and then also looking towards completing the renovation of the front yard, where now the people that are down on the road will be able to see the Kentucky bluegrass instead of the existing garbage that's out there. And then that kind of carries your eye up to the landscape. It's super exciting. Barton, it's been a frustrating year. Really tried to get on top of the grubs and chinch bugs this year, and despite my efforts, the lawn was devastated. Really? What was get on top of the grubs? Was that like a Scott's GrubX application, or what were you doing? Because I've seen a lot of Japanese beetles flying around, but I do not seem to get grub problems. So last year was the first time that I saw a lot of the Asian beetles flying around, and so I, around like May, put GrubX down, and then I did it again this year, and I have not had a grub issue. I will also typically keep on top of a monthly bifenthrin application that I apply to everything, just in the hopes of keeping mosquitoes down. But unfortunately, my sprayer is out of commission, and over at a local equipment store, getting hopefully some warranty work so I can get that back, because I am several weeks past due now on disease application. The one good thing about the fact that it's not raining ever is the fact that disease pressure isn't an issue yet. So at least, you know, you take the good with the bad, but I'm getting real sick of watering. Instant killer later when that wasn't working. Really? So you just have that bad of a bug problem? Yeah, that's interesting. I maybe I'm just lucky that the GrubX works for me. I don't know. Mainly chinch bugs. Okay. I wonder if, I mean, I've been fairly pleased with most of the Spectracide products that I've used, so I would have a fair amount of faith in whatever insect preventative that they use as well. But yeah, I've rolled bifenthrin for a while, but I know you're supposed to rotate active ingredients, so probably once I'm through this gallon of bifenthrin, I'll flip up to a different active ingredient this next year. In the best efforts to keep mosquitoes and spiders and, you know, various other bug, ants, you know, whatever kind of bug issues that I have around here, hopefully keep those down. But yeah, loaded up with, I think I've actually put Deep Woods off on myself here twice, so I'm hopeful that 50 total % DEET can keep me mosquito free here and be able to have a nice little Sunday live stream with the folks. So yeah, I think the things I'm kind of excited about looking forward here, so putting green renovation, hopefully we can get that looking just absolutely mint by the end of the year, get the Pencross to fill in. I didn't have as much seed left as I thought I had, so I have another 1 pound bag. No, I bought a 2 pound bag, so I have another 2 pound bag of Pencross coming to my house. Probably when that comes, I will put that down, brush it, get that raked in, and then come over the top of it with, I'm due for a sand top dress, so I'm going to put that seed down, sand top dress, and then keep watering it. Today I went and watered the whole yard again. We just aren't getting any rain at all, and so I had to go out there, watered the backyard today, and actually for the first time in the history of owning this house, outside of the times that I was putting seed down and trying to get seed to establish, I watered the side yard today too, because I figure if I spent the money, took the time to get out there and put a bunch of topsoil and put a bunch of grass seed out there, I might as well try to keep that alive here through the heat. But it's in the 90s the last couple days, and it's not raining, so there's really no choice but to water. And then we'll probably water the front. I watered around the pine tree where I always get that ring that checks out first from the pine tree sucking all the water out of the ground. So I watered that tonight along with the side yard, and then tomorrow we'll water the front. So much like has been the running theme with Sunday Night Live, is I like it because it gives us all an opportunity to get together, wrap up our weekends here before we go back to suffering at work, and just talk about what we did in the yard. So the four of you that are here, because I'm one of those five, what are you guys up to? What did you guys get accomplished this weekend in your yard? For me, it was mulch party. I had 12 yards of mulch come in, and we got the beds all mulched, and the landscaping project is done. Also then tonight, glyphosated the front yard. So what are you guys all up to? And if you don't want to talk about what you're up to, what sort of questions do you have for me, if any? Let's see if I can be of use to anyone. Nate, good morning. You over watching the Olympics, or where is it morning for you there, big guy? Also, congrats on what would appear to be the second triplex. Buddy here has 2 triplexes. And 2 greens mowers? 1 greens mower? No, in Iowa. Okay. Well, hello from Iowa. Not all that far from me then. Fellow Midwestern backyard golf enthusiast. What's it like being able to go out to the garage and decide which triplex you're going to use? Huh. One John Deere 220B. How do you like the John Deere? Anyone that has a John Deere, I feel like speaks incredibly highly of it. So come buy one. The one of the 2 that you had in the garage looked fairly well loved, we can say. I mean, I'm not against coming to buy one of them, if I'm honest. I do have aspirations of someday in the distant future real mowing all of my yard, and I can't do that with a walk behind because I don't have time. So, I mean, coming and buying a triplex is not out of the realm of possibility. That would be sweet. Join the Lawn Tools and Connor. And anybody else that I don't know of that's on YouTube with a triplex. Okay. That's the one thing. Both mine are running pretty good. I just haven't needed to use them all that much, simply because it doesn't rain. So the green and the fairway really haven't been growing all that much. But yeah, starting to have some people trickle in here. What's up, everyone? Happy Sunday. Talking about what we did here this weekend in the lawns. Talking about any questions you might have that I might be capable of answering. So yeah, what are you guys all up to? What sort of things are you working on? What sort of problems are you dealing with? For me, I'm just dealing with drought. It's just heat and drought are a constant issue this year. It refuses to rain. Actually, I think yesterday I had a 60% chance of rain. not a drop fell. It's just that, and then looking like the 15-day forecast, my highest percent chance of rain is 30%. So it could legitimately be in excess of 2 weeks here that it doesn't rain, and it's miserable. And I don't like watering. I hate it. But and I preach to do it as little as possible. That's kind of what I try to tell everyone, that you don't need to do the water twice a week to have a green yard. It'll stay green without doing that. But man, when it won't rain ever, at some point you do have to do the recommended things. I think another, and maybe if you're in the chat right now, something I'd maybe like some feedback from you folks on is I kind of had the thought of trying to do like a backyard putting green myths type video. Would be worried about diseases for what if it actually rained? That's the one thing that's been good this year, is without any rain, I don't have a disease issues. But one thing I kind of want to do is like a backyard putting green myths type video, to say like the things that are out there that everybody thinks that it's this, you know, that no homeowner could be qualified to do it, that it's going to take, you know, all of the time that you have available to you, that you don't have the expertise or ability to be able to manage something like that, just because markedly all of that's not true. You know, I do spend a fair amount of time on it, but it's not, you know, this all-encompassing thing. So if you've maybe ever talked to anyone, or like maybe been told something, what sort of like myths that are out there on what doesn't work, like, you know, why you shouldn't, as a homeowner, why you shouldn't have a green. And the other thing too that's been super cool with, you know, I did that kind of everything you need to know about putting greens video, is I've gotten now a lot of messages and a lot of comments of people starting to go down that road and trying that project. And it's super cool to kind of be somebody that's affiliated with that process, because absolutely, if it's something you want to do and you want to try, you should get out there, get after it, and try it. Because literally, what's the worst thing that happens? Like literally, you want to put a backyard putting green into your yard. What's the worst thing that happens if you fail? You just have grass, and it grows back up to 3 inches or whatever you were mowing it up before. Like, that's the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is you have a little area of your yard that's a little bit flatter and still has grass. So I got a Mothra just absolutely pounding on my computer here, but that's all right. All right, what do we got? Used Pramaxis. Did you have unusual yellowing of the turf? Used 0.38 ounces per 1,000 on my Bermuda, and it's not liking it. No, I did not. Mothra, get out of here. Ah! No, I did not have any yellowing at all. And in fact, it seems to actually help with the color. I've seen some people be worried about yellowing in Bermuda with using plant growth regulators. So maybe it's a Bermuda issue, but even that, I don't think it should be. And 0.38 ounces per 1,000 is pretty low in terms of what the label says to do for Bermuda. So I really wouldn't have anticipated that being an issue. I mean, I know it can do that, but I don't think one application at 0.38 should be an issue at all. So that's kind of interesting. Sorry to hear that. This moth. All right. Help with the info and my experiences. Yeah, Nate's another guy with a green in his yard. When tree. And to be fair, to some degree, there is some truth in that you shouldn't mow short. You know, that basically every 1/4 inch shorter that you cut your grass, the more problems you're introducing, the more potential for issues that you're introducing. But that doesn't mean that it can't be done. Just because something is harder, or just because something isn't exactly what's recommended, doesn't mean that it can't be done. Ryan J. Hendricks, what's up? Now I have now I got all the neighborhood kids following my channel. That's sweet. So for those of you watching, Ryan here, thanks for the wood from your sidewalk project. We will definitely use it. So I was ripping all the wood off the frames from the walkway that I poured, And just so happened we had some neighborhood kids building a fort in the woods across from our house, and came and took all of it, which is awesome. And then turns out that Parker, one of the kids, who's actually, I believe, lives literally right back here somewhere, followed my channel and liked the videos and stuff. So that was pretty cool. So Ryan, no problem. I'm glad it was helpful, and I'm glad you guys are able to use it. Man, we are into the big bug hours here. What GDD did you find in your, let's see, GDD did you find in your research for Bermuda? I think I may have overregulated from the June. That could be, because the one thing that I did see is it does, if it doesn't completely get metabolized by the plant over time, if you keep applying, it can start to create a certain level of kind of, I don't know if I don't think toxicity is the right word, but it starts to do that. I have a mosquito watching me from my phone, just ready to come here and give me Zika virus or whatever. Let's see. What question am I answering? GDD. I think it was, what I saw was 230. So if you want to be safer, you can maybe go 250 or even 300 growing degree days. And I think for Bermuda, that's going to be based on 10 degrees Celsius. So if you're able to use that Greencast application online, that Syngenta Greencast growing degree day kind of tracker. It is so you do the put your zip code in, put in, and then click the drop down for 10 degrees Celsius, and then for safety you could probably do like 300 days and kind of adjust from there. But even if it was something you did in June, I can't imagine that. I mean it's certainly possible, but it just seems like something that wouldn't have happened. When would be a good time to do bentgrass? Anytime. I am not one of those people that say you can only renovate and seed in the fall. One, because my least successful renovation to date happened in the fall. And two, I mean, if you say you're in Iowa, I mean, unless you're in like the deep south of Iowa, I feel like the climate is so mild that we can get away with seeding just about any time. Like it's a little bit more work, a little bit more watering, a little bit more, maybe weed control that you got to deal with when you're seeding in the summer or spring. All right, so maybe it does get fairly hot that you might want to wait through it, like through the just brutally hot sections of the year. You might not want to seed bentgrass into when it's going to be 100 degrees for a week or something. But I don't see any reason why in the Midwest you can't seed literally any time of year. So whenever you have the time to do it and manage it, if you have a good window of 2-3 weeks where you're going to be home enough that you can be watering regularly, I don't see why there's a time that you can't do it. But anyway, SMK, I'm sorry to hear that about the Bermuda though yellowing off with that. I know that is something that can happen, and I know it is a bit of a risk when you're using PGRs. And I know in my experience, I'm using the greens rate, so I'm using an extremely low use rate. It's like 1/8 of an ounce per thousand. But that's even low from the label. I think the label is 3/4 of an ounce per thousand for Bermuda. So it's interesting to see. I have some great content. Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And sorry, I don't think led you astray is the right word, but I'm sorry you went out and grabbed that product and it didn't treat you well. But yeah, I'm considering, as we're talking about bentgrass a little bit, I'm considering making the side yard bent. Just because I'm aware of Real Turf that does bentgrass in Texas that has all of the yard bentgrass, but bentgrass gets a bad rap for being this fragile, disease-prone, drought-prone, heat-prone grass type. But that Penncross held up and was looking green at 1/8 of an inch at the times that the rest of my cool season grasses were just trying their best to hold on at 3 inches. So I'm thinking there might be a little hidden gem there, and it gets so you cut that bent grass short. It gets so dang dense and like tight, and it just turns into this beautiful little carpet, and the grass blades are so fine and thin that I think it would be just like this softest place. If you could keep like bent grass at a 1/2 inch or 4/10 like I'm doing in the fairway, that'd be a fantastic yard to play on, to do things in. Also, I'm now realizing Grace was in the chat, and I saw the hi, Jason, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much for stopping by. I realized I forgot to mention you. Appreciate you stopping here. Andy's Lawn Care and Outdoor Adventures. What is up, Andy? Happy Sunday. Hope the greater Chicago area is treating you well. Appreciate you stopping by. Couldn't maintain my creeping bluegrass. Is that different than Kentucky bluegrass, Nate? That's not something I'm familiar with. So it grew out. Yeah, and maybe that's referencing like kind of what I said before, where it's like, what's the worst thing that could happen if you try having a putting green in your backyard? Also, one thing that I am finding is I have some bent spots in the rest of the yard that were taking over, and I sprayed those sufficiently. I'm not going to say heavy, but sufficiently with the Spectracide product that has quinclorac in it, and those have really, really started to look sad. So I think if you're worried about the bent grass taking over, if you seed it to have a putting green and then you fail and you find out it's not for you, I think quinclorac is going to be your friend, and I think you should be able to keep that under control, get it knocked down, and either reseed or let the whatever other grass that was there, come back in and take back over, and I think it'd be just fine. So, yeah, I that was kind of referencing back. Really, really cool to see the number of people that I get messaging me or telling me that they're gonna try to do it in their backyard, because it's been great. I love every second of having this thing back here. True putt from outside pride. Okay, interesting. I guess I didn't know creeping bluegrass was a thing. I mean, beyond the fact that Kentucky bluegrass does spread fairly aggressively. Couldn't keep it cut short due to my walk behind, blowing out to the driving range. Yeah, that'll get you. If you don't have the equipment to cut short, it's not going to work. So anyway, I kind of opened the live stream to, I think it was just me and Family Barton were hanging out, talking about I finished up my landscaping project. We got mulch in today, so I have that all set to go, and that's what I love about this Sunday Night Live chat format, is I think it's kind of cool to have everybody together, create a little bit of sense of community, talk about what we did in the lawn. So that was what I did this weekend. And just before I fired up the live stream here, I have now glyphosated phase 4 in the front yard. So you will see now over the coming month or so, you will see the last phase of my process of how I've gone about renovating a 7,000 square foot yard, as somebody who doesn't have an irrigation system, as somebody who doesn't have the means to water 7,000 square feet at once, how you can pick away little chunks, and if you keep using the same seed, they will all splice together, look uniform, despite the fact that you did them a little section at a time that you can water. And I would absolutely recommend that as a way to go if you have a large yard and you're somebody that doesn't like what you have, then you want to go the full kill and reseed. Doing it in sections that you can manage and just having a little patience over a couple years, highly, highly, highly recommend, because it has worked out extremely well, and it's allowed me to do something that I wouldn't have otherwise been able to do. But let's see. C. Schmitty, what's up, man? Happy Sunday. Sand leveled, then burned down. Interesting. So you did a sand level before killing off, or were those two different sections? Worried about seeding and sand. It is a little trickier. So maybe like just peat moss in there or compost in there, just a thin layer on top just to give it something. But if you didn't go too thick with the sand, maybe another way to go is if you're going to seed, and underneath the sand, if you went fairly thin, there should be your soil. So what I would recommend you do is go out there, throw the seed down, and then take whatever leaf rake you own. It doesn't matter which type of leaf rake it is, if it's the plastic ones for like raking up leaves, If it's the metal tine ones that are maybe a little bit more geared towards like junk and thatch removal, whatever it is, when you seed, go out and just drag it. Don't like rake, because then you're going to move the seed around. But literally just take it and just drag it back and forth. And that should get your seed to kind of settle down in through that little sand layer and get down to the soil where it hopefully will hold on to a little bit of moisture. Or you could try like peat moss or something like that when heavy on sand. I mean, realistically, it's not that you can't seed in sand. It's just in sand, everything leaves faster. So the water leaves faster. The nutrients leave faster. Everything just moves through the soil much more quickly. So if you have a heavy top layer of sand that you're going to seed into, it might mean that you have to water for 5 minutes 4 times a day. Instead of, if you were in a good, black topsoil, you can get away with watering twice. But it's not that you can't get seed to germinate in sand. I got bent grass to germinate after the third, was it the third top dress? Second top dress? After the second top dress, I got bent grass seed to germinate, and I didn't put anything on top of it. It was just in the sand that was on top, and I just watered it frequently enough and it came in. So please don't I don't want to give the impression that it can't be done. It's just in sand, everything moves a little bit more quickly, so it just requires a little bit closer touch. That's all. But that's an interesting order of operations. I think I probably would have burned everything off and then brought the sand in, just because it's easier to sand. It's easier to top dress when the grass is all gone and dead. And also, if you sand top dressed and buried something and then didn't get glyphosate to it because it was buried, you might have some of that creep up over the next couple weeks. Orbit timer going to go every 6 hours for an hour. If you're seeding, you do not need to water for an hour. So seeding watering is not the same as established turf watering. So seeding watering, you can go short bursts because you just need it to be wet. We're not trying to water, because it's seed, right? It doesn't have a root zone. So we're not, the reason you hear deep and infrequent all the time, and why it's more important to put down more water when you do water, is because we want to get water down into the soil. And if you don't water enough, that water doesn't penetrate the soil surface. It just stays right on top. And we're trying to get roots to go chase water down, watering heavier. There's no root system for seed. You just need to keep the top little bit where the seed is sitting wet. So you're not going to have to water for an hour when you're seeding. Not that that's an issue. Like, it's not like it's wrong unless it's heavy enough that you're getting some runoff. That would be an issue. But usually when I'm seeding, I'm looking at, let's see, when I did the side yard, I had 2 zones that covered the area, 2 zones of above ground sprinklers, and it was 10 minutes each, and they overlapped. So basically it was 20 minutes. And I did that usually for my climate on topsoil. It would start to look dry around 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. So I'd water it for 20 minutes then. And then usually again around 3 or 4, if it was like a hot sunny day, about 3 or 4 o'clock, it would start to look dry again. And then that 3 or 4 o'clock watering would get me through 9:30 the next morning. And it was just 20 minutes each. And yeah, and actually with reference to fertilizing seeds, something interesting that Backwoods Lawn Care brought up that I'd never really thought about is the seed has all of the energy it needs in the seed to germinate. So the fertilizer applications, like if you're going to do an overseed, and this doesn't apply to you since you glyphosated, but if you're going to do like an overseed, say, if you put fertilizer down the day that you seed, all you're doing is you're boosting your existing grass to grow faster and cause issues in your overseed establishment. Whereas, the seed has every bit of energy it needs in the seed. That's how it's designed. That's how seeds are made. What kind of he recommended and what it kind of made sense to me is, once you see it start to germinate, then you can throw some fertilizer down, because that's when it's going to need the energy to develop a root system, to develop all that stuff. And does the difference of 10 days matter? If we're talking about seed germinating by and large in 10 days, I don't know if that really matters. But yeah, I would say when you're seeding, you do not need to water for an hour, because it's not the same as watering for your yard, unless you're like the slowest trickle sprinkler I've ever seen. But yeah. Add peat, and that's the plan. That'll help a little bit for sure, and then that'll break down over time and just leave you with the sand. And you know, maybe you need to top dress again, or not. Schmitty, are you doing it for, like, you know, to go really, really low, or just, you know, you wanted kind of a smoother yard? Or are you going hunting, putting green hunting? Let's see. SMK. I think my hybrid Bermuda didn't like the dose. Normally do a quarter ounce. Going on vacation, so tried to max dose. That was a mistake. Yeah, and maybe if that's interesting that on the hybrid Bermuda that it recommends a lower, but I think it's like 3/4 of an ounce for common Bermuda residential lawn. So I'm surprised even at that, but maybe there was some residual still from the last time that you applied. But yeah, if you do start to apply it heavier, that's when you're going to see that yellowing. And the other thing too, and something I found interesting, really the heavier the application, the only thing that you get is more regulation. So what was kind of interesting is applying heavier doesn't get you longer coverage. It just longer growth regulation. It just gets you more growth regulation. And if you do too much more, then you're starting to create kind of an issue for the turf. So yeah, and it's probably something to dial in yourself too. So just keep tabs. So now you know that, you know, that 0.4 of an ounce per 1,000 is too much, and you've learned that lesson, and you can kind of dial it in yourself to where you need to be. And yeah, Schmitty, no problem. Happy to help, and hopefully the advice is sound. Again, I fight, now that I have a YouTube channel here, I fight imposter syndrome fairly frequently, because I've consumed a lot of content, and I've done the research that I needed to do to know how to do the things that I wanted to do, but I'm still not a professional. And I've kind of tried to frame that in my channel as something, as a positive. You know, if somebody like me, who has no training, no experience, no education, no any of this, can figure out how to do it, so can you. But in situations like this, I do get a little nervous when I'm giving advice as an authority, because I don't actually know. I'm really just speaking from, you know, a couple things that I've read, and what's worked for me. So take any advice I'm giving with that grain of salt, to know that I'm no expert in this field. I'm just speaking to what I have learned and what I have experienced, and that's about it. When you plan on seeding the last section of the front yard? I would assume mid-late August. It was glyphosated tonight. So I would usually glyphosate is about 10 days or so, 10 to 14 days before you start to see it do anything, and then it's probably about 2 weeks and some change before it really. It's maybe on the long side. It's usually about 5 or 6 days before you see it start to kill anything off, and probably about 2 weeks before everything is just stone dead. So I'm gonna let that all take. Run its course. Spray again if I have to. Anything that remains, anything that survives. So probably 2 weeks from today, we'll spray it again. And then I don't think I'm gonna till this time. So phases 1, 2, and 3 were all tilled. And I did that because I wanted to smooth out the surface without paying for topsoil. So I own a tiller, so I don't have to rent it. And my process and my thought was, instead of buying soil and instead of paying to top dress my yard, I'm just going to use a tiller, break up what exists, and run with that. This last section is on a pretty steep hill. Basically, my yard goes straight out from my house and then drops down to the road. So it's this last section is a fairly steep slope, and I'm thinking it's probably not wise through, you know, August, when we can I mean, it doesn't rain here, so it's probably not something I have to worry about, but it's not advised in August, when we can get really, really heavy storms, to break up the top 4 inches of earth on a side of a hill and then try to seed it, because that could just, I mean, you could probably see some pretty serious washout from that. So what I have just done is remove probably 6 or 7 yards of dirt from the walkway and from the landscaping project. So I think I'm actually going to bring that back up front and top dress with the dirt with the dirt pile I have them at the back of my yard. That's my plan. We'll see if it works. Well, perfect, Schmitty. That's awesome to hear. And yeah, I love the memes and having a dominant lawn and being kind of the envy of the neighborhood. I like that about lawn care. For me, the biggest thing is once I got a nice yard for the first time, drainage, and how well it deals with rain, so that you can get right out there again after it rains and still play. You don't have to wait for the soupy mess to go away. And the other thing is how soft a nice yard is. Such a great place to be. Like, yes, it looks nice. Yes, we're dominating the neighborhood. I love all of that. But for me, how soft it is and how great of a play space it becomes is really the big thing for lawn care for me. Um, with the burn down. Rye, Midnight, and Everest. That sounds like a fantastic little thing there. I'm expecting. So the kind of interesting thing is the part of my yard in the front that is done. The Kentucky bluegrass sections that are renovated and look amazing. You actually can't see from the road because it's about head high the hill, and then it's flat away. So you actually can't really see it. So the part of my yard that people can see when they walk by still looks like garbage. And then yeah, that's gonna start to die off now. And I would imagine I'm gonna get some comments since I'm a few people around know that I'm kind of the like lawn care guy. So when they start to see it all turn brown, I'm interested to see what I hear. Hear the mower after work. It probably means you're not mowing often enough, realistically. But yeah, when she's thick, it doesn't take much to get the mower working. Yeah, that's exactly the thing, Andy. The second I run a tiller on that hillside, I'm gonna get 7 inches of rain in a week. Just the entirety of my front yard washes through the culvert into my neighbor's yard. Ah, all right. So Schmitty was renovating. SMK was doing some. By the way, Andy's project lawn is dominating my project lawn. That place looks so good, but by and large, that was rain driven, and it's not going to look any better this time either because we still haven't gotten any rain. So I'm interested to see how my brother-in-law's yard is holding up because we actually haven't been over to their house since the last time I was there. Quite often, if we're going to hang out, they come here, largely because we're on an acre and they're on 2/10 of an acre at most. So just for a place to play, we just have the better house. What's everybody else been working on? I got my renovations coming up. I got a putting green renovation that's in the works. I think I was only talking about that when there was only like 1 or 2 people here. So I am mid putting green reno now. So excited to kind of introduce and show how well the Sunjoe serves as a verticutter. Also 2 or 3 weeks ago, I verticut some of the more bare areas on the green just to see if that would help the bent spread through that. Because basically once you break up the soil a little bit and give it some room to breathe, it can kind of work its way through those grooves. And when I started the renovation video, and when I think that'll probably come out Friday, I'm gonna have a kind of a video that's dedicated to like you're handier than you think coming out Monday, because now I have done small engine work, I have done siding, I have done a concrete walkway, I have done, landscaping's not hard, but maybe for some people they think landscaping's hard. And I'm not a handy person. Like more than 3 or 4 years ago, I would have been terrified to try any of those things. To take a component of my mower's engine off and, adjust the valves or, replace a piece in there, not a chance in the world I would have tried that. But now that I've done it, I can see that it's way easier than you maybe think. The concrete work, I didn't do it perfectly, but that was way easier than you would think. And the siding project that I did, I didn't show that much, but I melted a portion of the siding on the side of my house and cut that out, removed it, put new siding on. That was way easier than you think. So that was kind of I think Tuesday's video is going to be, I kind of walk around and talk about those projects that I did. Not from the perspective of how to. I think you should go to other people to learn how to do that, not me. I just learned from YouTube videos, and why would you learn secondhand through me when you could go to the person that I learned from? So not a how-to video, but more the perspective of, I kind of refer to it as a series around Helpless Idiot Does Things. So more as a confidence-inducing thing, because yes, somebody that has been doing siding for 30 years can make doing siding look very simple. And yes, somebody who has been doing concrete for 30 years can make doing concrete look very simple. But what I can show is that even if you're a helpless idiot like myself, it is still pretty simple, and you should maybe try to consider doing some of these projects yourself. And more just a confidence inducing thing. So that's my hope. So that's Tuesday's video. Friday's video is going to be the start of the putting green renovation, and what I've done there. Renovation's a loose term. I verticut and seeded. That's the renovation. And then I'm gonna top dress. Lawn Maverick, what's up, man? Happy Sunday. Andy, hopefully you get some rain soon. The stripes of the project lawn have gotten even better. Back out Friday to throw it on some fur. That's awesome, man. At least somebody with a project lawn is proving that lawn care is easier than people think. Because I think you're kind of doing something a little bit similar to what I've been doing, where it's like kind of bare minimum, not spending a whole bunch of money, not spending a whole bunch of time, and what you can do in a yard in a year for not a ton of money and not a ton of effort is actually way more than I would have thought. Like, you can make a ton of progress in a year on a terrible yard, and it doesn't take that much. Happy Sunday. So what did we got? We got Schmitty renovating his front yard. We had, and that's about it. What was everybody up to this weekend? What are you guys working on? What are we throwing down? What are we doing in the yard here? I got 128 pounds of Milo out in the yard earlier this week. So my summer fertilizer application's done here, and then Milo's going to go on the project yards here coming up. But what's everybody up to? What everybody get to enjoy here this weekend before we all go back to the work grind or school grind, depending on your age. Although I guess in July, if you're school age, you don't have to go back to school. Golfing this weekend, man. That's awesome. Just some local courses, or you go anywhere special? Oh, there's a word. Spot spraying phenoxaprop to keep common Bermuda out of the fescue. Does that actually work? I feel like that's a golden video idea there, if you haven't done that already. Oh, shirts. That was stupid. If that actually works, I feel like people are constantly looking for how to keep Bermuda out of their yard. I apologize if you have an active YouTube channel. I don't think I'm actually subscribed. Labeled for suppression only. Okay. So just something to keep it knocked down. But still, I feel like if you have something that's able to suppress kind of that invader, at least your existing turf should be able to help it. In the Dells, awesome. Which course do you play? I feel like if you're in the Dells, you're either at Christmas Mountain, Trapper's Turn, or Wild Rock. Shot 90 on 18 holes. Don't sleep on that number. Assuming you actually played by the rules of golf, that's a fantastic round. The one thing I learned working at the golf store for as long as I did, it kind of jaded me about people who play golf. People are way worse at golf than they say they are. Like, so bad at golf. 90 is a good number. A lot of people that play the game don't see 90 ever. So that's fantastic. True putt in my green. Okay. DIY yard, what's up, man? Happy Sunday. And yeah, I mean, that's true, Lawn Maverick. Bogey golf is a fantastic round. I actually, for the first time this year, played a round that I was happy with my dad on, let's see, Wednesday night? Yeah, Wednesday night. My dad came down and we played 9 holes at a course around here. And I just played really well and on my way to a 39. It was the first, like, solid round of golf where I felt like I had some degree of control this year over where the ball was going. This year I have no I've played my whole life with like feel, like I can feel where the ball's going to go. I can't always make it go there, but at least when it doesn't go there, I can feel what I did wrong, make an adjustment. I feel like I'm in control. This year I haven't felt like I've been in control where the ball's going. But it was good to get out and like strike it well. Coldwater Canyon. I have never played there. I did not know that exists. Actually, if you are going to go back, don't play Trapper's Turn. Kalahari ruined that place. I haven't played there in a while, but when the Kalahari bought Trapper's Turn, they bought it to be able to say that they had an affiliated golf course, not to take care of it. Because that place used to be beautiful, it used to be immaculately maintained, and they did not do that. Wild Rock's the place to play in the Dells, and I think it might even be cheaper. Wild Rock is a fantastic, fantastic resort golf course. The fairways are huge. The green complexes are more difficult, so you can keep it in play. You don't spend all day looking for a golf ball. The property is beautiful, so the golf course is beautiful. Highly, highly recommend if you're in the Wisconsin area, you can make it to the Wisconsin Dells. I would absolutely, absolutely recommend throwing a couple dollars at Wild Rock Golf Course. Landscaping looks great. Thank you, DIY Yard. I am so beyond pleased with that is 3 years in the making. Basically, we came in and we ripped everything out. At least got it back where you could see the house, and then just a combination of finances and time didn't allow us to do the landscaping work. And then this year, finally, we sold our other house last year. Fortunate enough to be able to both have the time and afford to be able to do it. And when you wait that long to have a house with landscaping at all, when you finally get it in and it looks as good as it does, I'm super pleased. Well, that's enough about me. No Bermuda up in these parts, Lawn Maverick. It's in the 80s for like, in the 80s and above for like 8 weeks at most, and that's about it. I was out on a bent grass green Bermuda fairway course this weekend. Interesting. They don't try to take over each other. Chula Vista. Oh, okay. Chula Vista. Yep. Yep. Okay. Yep. I have seen that because I have stayed at the Chula Vista before. Man, the Dells is such a like cliche vacation spot for people that live around here, but I really enjoy it. All the like water parks and stuff, super fun. But yeah, if you are in the Milwaukee area, I'll be playing again at this weekend at Broadlands Golf Course. I very, very much like that, and it's a good value. So what? Anybody got any questions? Anything I can try and help with? Things you're working on, things you're struggling to understand, problems you're having. One thing I do, while maybe anybody that does have a question wants to type a little bit, one thing I do want to touch on, I think I've been bit by the first mosquito, so we might be nearing the end of this run. But one thing I do really want to touch on is as the, like I'm in the Lawn Care 101 Facebook group, and it was really cool when it started because it was a smaller group, and people that really kind of knew what they were talking about could answer and address all of the posts. But as that group has gotten larger and larger, I've started to notice what I've always kind of noticed on Facebook groups, forums, etc., where you start to bring in that forum expert that just people ask what's going on with my lawn, how do I make it better, and you just get these like very rigid forum answers where it's like, oh, it's disease, you got to put a disease preventative down. We don't, it's just that's a disease problem. You got to put the disease preventative down. It's like, do they though? And I saw somebody with a lot of authority tell someone earlier today, I think even, in response to like, what happened to my yard, what do I do? They just snap recommended you have to water, fertilize, which are not bad recommendations inherently, and put lime down. It's like you can't possibly know that lime is the right recommendation for somebody because that's a soil pH thing. You need to know what the soil pH is first. You need to see the like grass blade close up to know if it's a disease problem. Like you need to know these things. So, and then it's you have to it's these definitive. You have to do these things exactly, or you're not going to have a nice yard. You have to water 1.5 inches exactly every week, or you can't have a green yard. If you're just not watering that much, it's never going to work. No, that's not correct. And so maybe we'll kind of try to, I try to touch on watering a lot just because, especially if you're in milder climates, you do not need to water anywhere near what's recommended to keep your yard green through the summer. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that where it's, I've seen the Milorganite recommendation where it's like, it's great. You can just throw it down, brush your teeth with it, put it in your morning, put it in your coffee in the morning, actually just run the water through Milo, make your coffee that way. Like it's just going to solve all your problems and it's great. And you can't put it down at any rate. It doesn't matter. It's going to be perfect. And some of those things are true. You can get away with making mistakes with Milorganite. It's a good beginner fertilizer. But that does not mean that it solves all of your problems in your yard. And if you have if you're in a part of the world that's phosphorus rich, it's bad. That's a bad thing to be putting on your yard. So those like blanket forum-y, internet expert kind of responses that you get from people who have just, watched videos and internalized like I'll make an analogy here where the United States as a country and its people apply 100 level microeconomic theory to doctorate level macroeconomic theory, and then we make policy around that, rudimentary understanding of how economics works, and we apply that to very broad, very complex issues. That's the same kind of thing you get on these like Facebook groups where it's like you're taking these very basic foundational ideas of like, you have to water 1.5 inches all the time, and Milo is a great beginner fertilizer, and you have to put down all these products and do all these things, but without an actual understanding of how things work, that's not really good advice. So maybe to kind of try to address some of those things. But let's see, what do we got over here? White Plains MD Golf Course. Is MD Maryland? Because I will not be checking that out, but if it's in my area, absolutely. Bent grass is looking good, but not enough heat to get the Bermuda fully grown out. Yeah, that to me that's interesting. Where you would just have like a dormant Bermuda fairway all the time. Brad G got my new green almost all grown in. Still some bare spots and trying to level it better. Getting some scalping. Yeah, the lower you go, it was around the 3rd top dress that I started to notice it becoming, very, very smooth surface. And then around the 4th, it was very smooth again. And then when I flipped to the greens mower, that was when it got mint. And I'm starting to get a little bit of rolling again, which is why why I did the Verticut seed and why I'm gonna do another sand top dress here. Actually backfire. Yeah, and to that point, that's another thing. It's like, well, if you water too much, you're just gonna have disease. It's like, nah. I mean, yeah, maybe it can lead to that problem, but it's easier to deal with disease, and granted, disease control is very expensive. Realistically, disease control is probably the most expensive thing you can do in lawn care. But you can control disease. You can't beat a lack of water. So even that is like, yes, you can introduce some issues with watering, but it's like just watering too much is not going to give you disease. And I'm not saying you said that because you didn't say that, but you will see that in these Facebook groups. Like, oh, you're just watering too much and that's why you have disease. It's like, no, you can't just make that definitive conclusion. Greenskeeper buddy says when it's humid, don't water. You really need to water when it's less dry. Yes, but I wasn't watering often enough when it got really hot and the green checked out. Like, and when you're cutting very, very short, things check out very, very, like things snap on you pretty quick. And that was actually why I'm putting the pen cross in and trying to get that to establish in the whole green because it was much more resilient through all that. But yeah, to all of those points, it's like at some point you have to acquire some sort of knowledge base yourself and be able to apply that to what you're seeing in your own yard and the lessons that you've learned about it. You know, you're going to see, and that's something Alan preaches, is you're going to start to see patterns and trends, and you're going to start to learn for you what works and what doesn't work, because it might be a little bit different based on your soil, based on your region, based on your climate, based on your conditions that day. And you'll acquire all these tools. And if you can acquire all the tools and know what things do what and when and why and how, then you can formulate that into. So hopefully I can continue to kind of provide insight and information on how to know things, and then how to, as a beginner or as somebody new to lawn care, be able to look and apply, you know, be able to think critically about what's going on in your yard and apply that right tool at the right time. And I know for beginners, you know, doing that is advanced. That's why I have the cheap and easy lawn care program, because hey, if you don't care and you don't want to do anything and you just want to spend as little amount of money as possible and with as little amount of effort as possible, you follow that, you're going to have a way nicer yard than you have now. But I think the important thing is for everybody to kind of learn how to, you know, what tools do what and how and when to use them. Live in Arizona, and you probably have to water 1.5 inches a week. I can easily get away with 3/4 of an inch a week, especially with Hydrotain. Yeah, exactly. And that's climate driven too. And I do try to, when I talk about not watering, I do try to always predicate that on the fact that I'm in a very mild climate. You know, here in Wisconsin, we don't see the types of temperatures that most people see. I am on 10 inches of rain total for 2021. And I have watered my backyard now 7 times. And I think when I water, I don't have the patience or will to put down a 1/2 inch. I think when I water, I'm around 3/10 of an inch of water. So 10 inches of rainfall, 6 times 0.3, 2 inches of 2 inches of irrigation. So 12 inches of water over, let's say we started April 1st to now July 25th. That's what 5, 10, 15, let's say 20 weeks. 12 total inches of water. And I will put my front yard and my backyard up against anybody's in my area on 2 inches of irrigation total and 10 inches of rain. It's just the yard doesn't need as much water as you think it might. Here, yes, to your point, in Arizona, you're going to be watering all the time because it's a desert and it's hot as fork always. Wait for the long day. Yeah, that's exactly the point, Andy. You wait to see it start to check out, and it's really easy to tell when it's a really clear picture you get when your yard starts to fall into heat and drought stress. And you can water then, and if you water every time you see that first sign of drought stress, you're gonna be just fine. May have missed you, Lawn Maverick. May have missed you doing this already, but any plans of sand capping the whole lawn? Plans, yes. Near-term plans, no. So, what I think what I want to experiment with, and I want to get the front yard done, because the front yard is what I'm going to experiment doing it. So, I have what will be, so I've glyphosated the last section tonight. That'll die off, and we'll renovate that. So I've done 4 phases, about 1,000 square feet at a time, somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 square feet at a time, just so I can manage it and water it. And what I want to do and what I want to try is use the reel mowers that I have, take a section down to, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, somewhere in there, like very short, just scalp it down and sand top dress that section, water that section, take care of that section, and see what happens. So, much like I've learned now, you can effectively seed and renovate a yard in sections. You don't have to do it all at once, and you can still get uniformity. The the Seed Superstore Kentucky Bluegrass mix in each section looks exactly the same. If you were to ask someone, were these all seeded at once, or were these seeded at different times, they would have no idea. It all looks exactly the same. So what I want to try to do is sand top dress in the same little sections and see if that will also respond the same. So where like I have because you know Connor's an animal and insane. So he's doing 10, 20 plus thousand square feet of sand top dressing at one time. No thanks. Hard pass. So what I want to experiment with, and when the time comes, is can you like sand top dress in sections? So can I like scalp a section down, sand level that bit, let it grow back up, and then what does it look like, and what happens? Does it make it way higher in a section? What sort of problems do you have? And if you can do it that way, it's going to be way lower effort, and then you can just kind of do little bits at a time. So that's my plan, but that's not in the near term. I got a lot of things that have to happen before that. Some mason sand on my perennial ryegrass this fall. Yeah, I mean the putting green area where it has been sand top dressed, I want that all throughout my yard, because to mow that is just fantastic. You don't realize how much you hate walking behind a mower that's dancing around and jumping around into all the holes in your yard. You don't realize how awful that is until you have it not do that. So I do absolutely have plans at some point of sand top dressing my whole yard and getting it much smoother, but just not in the near term. Hawaiian Times, that's a name I haven't seen yet. Welcome. Appreciate you stopping by. Happy Sunday. Just moved into our new house in May, so I've been playing catch up with the lawn. Started with the dandelion farm and took care of it with weed and feed. Then the clovers came, and now it's crabgrass. Yeah, that's first year in a yard problem. What my yard looked like that. I have pictures of and actually still, so beyond the renovation is still just it was all dandelions in the spring, and then it was all clover through the summer. So I feel you there, and it doesn't take as much work as you think, and it'll happen faster than you think. But if you just stay the course, you'll absolutely, you don't ever have to feel like you're behind. It's lawn care is a long game, and it's not, that stuff's not going to happen all at once, but it will happen, and it will happen probably quicker than you think. So I bet by next June, if you stay on a good, weed control program, next year you do a pre-emergent, you do all those things the way that you're supposed to, do a May and June weed control when those things are needed. I wouldn't recommend always using weed and feed. I don't love those products, but if they work for you, they work for you. And then keeping that stuff under control, get a pre-emergent out next year to deal with the crabgrass problem if you have one. I guess maybe my first caution would be make sure it's crabgrass, because here in this yard I had a ton of problem grass issues that I thought all of them were crabgrass, and actually it turns out literally none of them were crabgrass. So maybe figure out what your grass issue is and know for sure. And maybe you do. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, but just trying to speak to what I've learned. And very quick, like a lot quicker than you would expect, you will have a very nice yard. So if you feel like you're catching up, you can catch up pretty quick. Gonna renovate my backyard soon. That's fantastic. Just ordered Jacqueline Heisman seed from Pendleton Turf today. There are so many seeds out now. Like, when I first started following people, there was GCI and Seed Superstore. And then now we got Mountain View, and we got Barenbrug, and we got, I know all these companies existed, but like a lot more of them are starting to kind of penetrate the DIY market. Also, penetrate. Glyphosate starting next week. Nice. That's a project that's easier than I think people give it credit for too. It's just like you kill your yard and all the weeds are gonna come up. Like, it's so easy to kill weeds. Like, killing weeds is quite literally the easiest thing to do in lawn care. It's probably tied for the easiest thing to do in lawn care with fertilizing. This stuff's so easy. Why are we worrying about weeds? Not hard to deal with. Any experience with Midnight? I'm fairly certain Midnight is one of the 3 cultivars I have out front. My grass out front really fought rust. and the Midnight was in there. So is Midnight more susceptible to rust diseases? Maybe. I don't know. But that was the issue I had. Also, this spring for the first time I had powdery mildew around underneath the pine tree. But all that stuff's been under control now. I was on a very religious disease preventative program this year until I ordered Eagle 20, and then my sprayer broke, so I could not apply Eagle 20. So I think I'm like 2 or 3 weeks overdue on disease preventative. But fortunately, it's not raining, so I don't have a disease problem. But anyway, Hawaiian Times. Hopefully, some of that was helpful, and you're gonna have, if you stick with it, you're gonna have a nicer yard than all your neighbors very, very quickly. And don't let that dude from Matt Martin's podcast tell you that you can't do it because you're not an expert. Lawn Maverick, yes, it's the logical. Okay, what do we got going on? It's a logical next step, especially if you can mow low. Still working with a Honda HRX. Yeah, I don't have I don't have recent plans of going low with my whole yard. Now that I do have some experience with real mowing and cutting a yard short, I do very much want to do that on a larger scale than I'm currently doing it. But yeah, I'm just not there yet. So yeah, I again appreciate all of you here coming up. Lawn Maverick coming in with $5, man. Thank you so much. That is super, super appreciated. That's awesome. Nobody is under any obligation to do that, and I sincerely, sincerely appreciate that. That's too kind. Disease control has been key to helping my project lawn. That's what caused it to thin out, so keeping up with monthly apps has kept disease out. Yeah. I wish disease control was cheaper. I wish disease control was cheaper. And granted it is. So I prefer, because of the size of my yard, I prefer to use granular where I can. It's just a lot easier. I can knock out 17 to 20,000 square feet of a granular fertilizer or whatever application in 20 minutes. If I'm going to spray it, I got a 4-gallon backpack sprayer, and I'm going to have to fill that thing 5 times, and I'm probably out here for an hour and a half. Probably not an hour and a half. Probably 45 minutes to an hour to spray everything. So I have preferred to go the granular route. Simply because it's easier. Simply because it's easier. But I've been using Headway G, which is the bulletproof strategy. It's azoxystrobin and propiconazole. Great product. Worked fantastic for me. But I have done that in May and June. Headway G is $8 per 1,000. So it's like 100, even more than that, because it's a $90 bag, covers 10,000 square feet. It's $9. It's a $9 per 1,000 application, like $180, $200 for me to apply that to my yard each time. So I think Eagle is a $200 bottle for a gallon, but it's like 1 ounce per 1,000. So 128 ounces, $200 is $1.60 an ounce, something like that. So $1.60 per 1,000. So once you get into the liquid fungicides, you're now talking about probably a factor of like 6 or 7 times cheaper than the granular disease preventative. Now, if you're just going to do like June and July because you don't have that big of a disease problem, I would recommend Headway G. It's a great product. I like it, but I can't afford it. I can't afford to use it. Logan's asks, best food in Muskego. The Local, which is actually very close to my house. Maddie's Bar and Grill. Lucky's at the Lodge. And Bass Bay Brew House are the best foods in my experience around my house. There are more good places than that. Just those are the, like, if we're gonna go get food somewhere, it's gonna be one of those 4 places. Fungus is killing me in the front yard. Yeah, if you just get out there, if you put down some sort of fungicide, it'll start to heal up pretty quick, and it does recover pretty well if you can get it before it like just decimates your whole yard. And yeah, Lawn Maverick. I mean, Lawn Maverick has perfectly summarized using Headway G. So expensive, but effective and easy. So, applied propiconazole this morning for lots of mycelium. Yep. Advanced fungus control granulars for my bent green. Great results so far, and it's cheap too. Yep, that's a good option. I think that Bio Advance is propiconazole. I think it's a granular propiconazole. And so the bulletproof strategy, if you use both, Scott's Disease X is $4 per thousand, and the Bio Advanced spray, and I think the granular is the same, is $4 per thousand. So if you're going to do both of them at the same time, it was about an $8 per thousand application. And yeah, Headway is pretty much dollar for dollar right in that place. Homemade Headway. Yeah, and it's probably, 30% the cost. And yeah, it's liquid. So one of the projects for me one of these years is going to be doing one of the fertilizer spreader mounted spray rigs, just because I do like using liquid products and they're cheap, and it'd be cool to use PGR on my whole yard, and use the liquids on my whole yard, be able to do it a little bit more efficiently. And granted, with a battery powered sprayer, it's not like it's a lot of effort or work, or it's not like it's difficult, but it just takes forever. So I do prefer to go the granular route over liquid, just due to the size of my lot. Really? Interesting. It's pretty well for me since I started using it. It's kept disease issues in my yard in check. But that's interesting that it hasn't really worked out for you. Could be maybe based on the disease you fight. I mean, I know no fungicide covers every single disease. But yeah, that's interesting. Especially for the money that you spend. If it doesn't work for you, I would be bigly upset. And that's the thing, is I'm not a big, identification is far and above my weakest point in lawn care. Largely because I just don't care. I will put a lot of time and effort into things that I care about and want to learn, but stuff that I don't care, I find it very, very difficult. So I have no idea how to identify grasses. I have no idea how to identify weeds. I have no idea how to identify disease type. No idea how to identify any of that stuff. So unfortunately, I'm not the person to really help with that. But DIY Yard, have a good one, man. Appreciate you stopping by. And have yourself a great week. And hopefully I'll start seeing everybody every Sunday night again like we were before. And realistically, it's probably getting to be about time for me to sign off here as well. My voice is starting to struggle with talking. I don't know how Ron Henry does this for 4 hours. Dude, my throat's getting so dry already. And I've been drinking water this whole time. Buddy just out there answering questions for 4.5 hours. But yeah, I will give just a moment, and I appreciate everybody, starting to give me the great week sign-off type stuff. I will take just a moment if anybody has any final thoughts, questions, any final little topic that you'd like me to touch on. I'll give her another 5 minutes here if we do have something interesting. Otherwise, yeah. Thank you all so much for stopping by. I appreciate you, Lawn Maverick, for the donation. That's super kind. And even beyond that, thank you all. I'm going to say it over and over again. You're going to get tired of me saying it. But the second that I gained a YouTube following that had people show up for these live streams, I have loved it. I absolutely, truly enjoy having the opportunity to get on a camera here and just talk to all of you about what we're doing. Field questions, talk about projects, just kind of celebrate lawn care and our weekends together. So thank you all so very much. I'm going to give it another few seconds here. See if anybody has anything interesting to say or to ask. And then, yeah, we will call it an evening. So, appreciate you all sharing a little Sunday beverage with me. But yeah, coming up this week, Andy brings up a great point. I'll say it again. Coming up this week, I have the Idiot Does Things and You Can Too video coming out Tuesday, where I talk about the kind of DIY handyman type projects that I've accomplished despite having no acumen, no experience, no understanding of how any of those things work. But a couple YouTube videos I was able to do it fairly simply, and you can too. That's kind of the concept of the video. And Friday will be the video talking about what I'm doing on the putting green. And then beyond that, we're going to start to get into the front yard renovation. I will have landscaping part 5 to kind of reveal the final landscaping project. DIY irrigation will be out there. I have 20 Hunter rotator heads sitting in my basement, 4 to 8 of which I use on an above ground irrigation. The scariest thing for me, once I can get water outside and the wiring conduit outside, everything becomes very easy. It's just digging a trench and putting together Legos with PVC. But I'm afraid of teeing off of the main water line off my well and then drilling a hole in the outside of my house and getting the water out there and figuring out how backflow preventers work, and all of that is kind of the scary stuff. So maybe I pay a plumber to do that part of it. I don't know. Maybe that's, I mean, the one guy that I follow does recommend if you're not comfortable doing a DIY project, pay somebody to do that part and DIY the rest of it. So maybe I should heed that advice and do it that way. And I'll pay a plumber to get water out there and put a backflow say that a couple times fast. Backflow preventer on, and then just run all the lines myself and set all the zones myself, because that part's very simple. Like setting up these heads and doing all that, digging holes, digging trenches, that stuff's simple. Glue and PVC pipe together, all that stuff's very easy. So yes, I planned on this year doing a DIY irrigation system, but I'm just not going to get there. Midnight KBG, overtake turf type tall fescue. It's not that it will overtake it. What will happen is anywhere the fescue dies off, KBG will fill in. So it will, you know, it's not like Bermuda, where Bermuda is going to come into your yard and literally just take it over, like by force. But Kentucky Bluegrass will fill in, and that's why I like Kentucky Bluegrass. It's why I enjoy having it, because any issues that you do have, it's just going to fill in for you, rather than you having to go out there and, you know, reseed. So that's it will kind of take over that way, where anywhere the fescue dies off, it'll come in, but it's not like going to crowd out and kill your fescue. Realistically, cool. The warm season grasses are from the jungle, so they all compete with each other. Cool season grass seems to commingle fairly well together. You can have rye and fescue and bluegrass. Bent grass is the only one in my experience that like takes over. And it's just the way bent grass is the only cool season stolen growing grass type. Somebody can clip that if I'm wrong and tell me I'm an idiot, which is fine. But I think it's the only stolen spreading grass type for cool season grasses. And creeping bentgrass will basically like grow onto the side of turf and just lay it over and smother everything. And then bentgrass doesn't like being cut tall, so if it's in with tall cut turf, it just looks terrible and it all lays over and dies. I think that's the only one that will take over in a sense of where it is going to like kill off and take out the existing cool season turf. But the other three seem to really coexist without harming each other. And yes, stoloniferous. Oh, good word. But yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. I appreciate you guys all so much again. Thank you very, very much. And we will see you next time. Have yourself a great week. And we'll see you out on the lawn here.